Stop being so clumsy while eating, Mom scolded as I spit blood onto my plate again. My sister smiled, grinding something in the kitchen. When I collapsed at T-school, the x-rays showed my intestines shredded with glass fragments. The surgeon's report stated, "The first time I found glass in my food, I thought it was an accident. A tiny shard in my morning oatmeal that cut my tongue. Mom had scared and said the bowl must have had a crack, threw it away, and made me a fresh batch." Isabella, my older sister, had watched from across the table with those dark eyes that never seemed to blink enough. "You should be more careful, Emma," she'd said. "You could really hurt yourself." I was 13 then, too young to recognize the warning in her voice for what it was, a promise. By the time I was 15, finding glass in my food had become strangely routine, always tiny pieces, almost invisible unless they caught the light. Sometimes I'd catch them before they reached my mouth. Sometimes I didn't. My parents' response was always the same. Old dishes, clumsy handling, my own carelessness. "Stop being so clumsy while eating," Mom scolded as I spit blood onto my plate for the third time that week. A larger piece this time. I could feel the edges of the cut in my gum. "Honestly, Emma, you need to slow down." Behind her, Isabella smiled from where she stood at the kitchen counter. I heard the distinctive sound again, a grinding, crushing noise I'd been noticing more and more. She was making her special seasoning blend, she'd say when asked, for her culinary arts class. "Maybe Emma needs glasses," Isabella suggested sweetly. "If she can't see what's in her food, that's not a bad idea." Dad chimed in from behind his newspaper. "She's always squinting at things." I wanted to scream that my vision was fine, that I could see perfectly well, including the mortar and pestle Isabella hastily covered with a dish towel when I looked her way. But I'd learned that defending myself only made things worse. In the Harrison household, Isabella was the golden child heading to culinary school, and I was the melodramatic younger sister always looking for attention. The incidents escalated slowly, methodically. Isabella was smart. She knew exactly how much glass dust to mix into my food to cause damage without making it obvious. Sometimes she'd go weeks without adding any, letting my guard down. Then suddenly I'd bite down on something sharp in my sandwich at school, or find my throat burning after a smoothie she'd lovingly prepared for me. I started photographing my bloody tissues, documenting each incident in a hidden journal. But when I tried to show my parents, they found excuses. "Bit your cheek, brushed too hard, canker sores, normal teenage problems. You're trying to sabotage your sister's future." Mom accused when I suggested Isabella was doing it on purpose. "She's been accepted to the Culinary Institute. Why would she risk that to hurt you?" Why, indeed, I'd ask myself that question countless times. Isabella had everything: beauty, talent, our parents' adoration. The only answer I could find lay in the way she watched me writhe in pain. The small, satisfied smile when I pushed my plate away, unable to eat. She enjoyed it. It was that simple and that terrifying. The grinding sounds became my nightmare soundtrack. Late at night, early in the morning. Always when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I snuck into her room once when she was out and found her supplies. Bags of broken glass sorted by size, from dust-fined powder to rice-grained chunks. Laboratory precise in their organization. She'd been perfecting her technique. I tried to protect myself. Started making my own meals, buying packaged food I could keep in my room. But Isabella was creative. She'd volunteered to pack my school lunch as a sisterly gesture. She'd bring me tea when I was studying, concern written all over her face. My parents praised her thoughtfulness while I examined every gift for hidden dangers. "You're becoming paranoid," my school counselor said when I finally worked up the courage to tell someone. "Have you considered that the stress of your sister's success might be affecting you?" Even she didn't believe me. Why would she? Isabella was a model student, heading for a bright future. I was the troubled younger sister with declining grades and what everyone saw as attention-seeking behavior. The day everything changed started normally. Isabella made breakfast French toast. She announced proudly, practicing for her final exam. My parents insisted I eat it, tired of my stubborn refusal to appreciate my sister's cooking. I took small bites, checking each one. It seemed safe. The syrup was sweet, the bread perfectly golden. I relaxed slightly. Maybe this time, the pain hit during second period. Not the sharp cutting sensation I was used to, but something deeper, more wrong. I doubled over at my desk, tasting copper. When I tried to stand, the room spun. Emma. My teacher's voice seemed distant. Emma, what's wrong? I collapsed before I could answer, blood running from my mouth. The last thing I saw was my classmates' horrified faces as they backed away from the spreading red puddle. I woke up in the hospital to the sound of urgent voices. Doctors using terms I didn't understand: intestinal perforation, internal bleeding, emergency surgery. Through the haze of pain medication, I heard one say, "We need to get her into her now." The surgery took 6 hours. When I woke up again, Dr. Martinez was sitting beside my bed with an expression I'd never seen on an adult's face when looking at me. Belief mixed with horror. "Emma," she said gently, "we need to talk about what we found." She showed me the images first. X-rays that looked like a constellation of stars scattered through my digestive system. Then the photographs from the surgery itself, which I couldn't look at for long. Finally, she placed a small specimen jar on the bedside table. Inside were pieces of glass, some tiniest sand, others the size of apple seeds. "We counted 47 distinct pieces," she said quietly. This isn't from one incident, Emma. The scarring in your esophagus and stomach shows repeated trauma over months, possibly years. The piece that perforated your intestine was larger, sharper, almost certainly from a recent ingestion. 47 pieces. 47 times Isabella had watched me bleed and smiled. "I need to ask," Dr. Martinez continued, her voice careful. "Has someone been doing this to you?" The dam broke. Everything poured out. Isabella's grinding sounds, the bloody meals, my parents' dismissals, the bags of sorted glass in her room. Dr. Martinez listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "The pattern of injuries, the variety of glass sizes, the methodical scarring, this is consistent with deliberate, repeated poisoning," she said finally. "I mandated to report this. But Emma, I need you to know, this isn't your fault, and it's not in your head." The police came within hours, then social services, then a detective who specialized in cases like mine, cases where the evidence was literally inside the victim. They took the specimen jar, the surgical photos, the detailed medical report that documented not just the recent glass, but the historical damage. "We'll need to search your home," Detective Bradley told my parents, who'd been summoned to the hospital. They stood in the doorway, Mom clutching Dad's arm, both pale with shock. "This is insane," Dad protested. "Isabella would never." "We found 47 pieces of glass in your daughter's digestive system," Detective Bradley interrupted. "This wasn't an accident. This was attempted murder." The search of Isabella's room was thorough. They found her glass collection meticulously organized and labeled with dates. They found her journal where she documented her experiments, which foods best masked the texture, what sizes caused the most pain without immediate detection, how long it took for symptoms to appear. Most damning, they found her laptop. She'd been researching for months. Medical websites about internal bleeding, forums discussing untraceable poisons, case studies of glass ingestion. Her browser history was a roadmap to murder. Isabella was arrested at her culinary school. She'd been in the middle of a knife skills demonstration, the irony not lost on anyone. When they told her why she was being arrested, witnesses said she didn't deny it. She just asked how I'd survived. The trial revealed the depth of her pathology. The prosecution presented evidence that she'd been planning this since she was 14, that she'd practiced on pets first. Our elderly cat's mysterious death 2 years ago suddenly made horrible sense. The defendant showed extraordinary premeditation, the prosecutor stated. She turned meal preparation into attempted murder, using her culinary skills to disguise systematic poisoning. She kept detailed records of her victim's suffering. This wasn't a cry for help or a moment of passion. This was slow, deliberate torture. Isabella's defense tried to argue mental illness, but her journal entries were too clear, too rational. She knew exactly what she was doing. She'd written about watching me bleed, about the thrill of my parents taking her side, about how easy it was to hurt someone when everyone trusted you. One entry, read aloud in court, still haunts me. "Emma choked on a piece today at dinner. For a moment, I thought it was over, but she coughed it up. I'll have to use smaller pieces. The goal isn't to kill her quickly. It's to watch her fade, while everyone tells her she's imagining things." She was sentenced to 15 years. My parents, faced with the evidence of their enabling, couldn't look at me during the verdict. They'd chosen their golden child over my safety for years, dismissing my pain as attention-seeking, while Isabella literally fed me glass. Recovery took months, multiple surgeries to repair the damage, a feeding tube while my intestines healed, therapy to deal with the trauma of not just the poisoning but the gaslighting, being told for years that my pain wasn't real while glass shredded my insides. I live with my aunt now, far from my parents, who still send letters trying to explain their blindness. I eat carefully, sometimes still checking my food, even though I know it's safe. Trust, once shattered like glass, isn't easily repaired. The surgeon's report sits in my desk drawer. 47 pieces, each one a deliberate act of cruelty. Sometimes I read it to remind myself that I wasn't crazy, wasn't clumsy, wasn't seeking attention. I was just a girl whose sister decided to kill her one meal at a time, while everyone watched and called it accidents. Glass, it turns out, makes excellent evidence. It doesn't dissolve, doesn't disappear. Every piece Isabella fed me stayed inside, building a case she never thought would see light. She counted on my silence, my parents' denial, and her own reputation to protect her. She didn't count on those 47 pieces telling their own story, written in scars and blood, counted out by a surgeon who finally believed me.